Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 24, Text 118. Nabha Yogishvara Janma Hoite Sadhaka Jnani Vidhi Shiva Narada Mukhe Krishna Guna Suni. From their very births, the 9 great mystic yogis, the Yogendras, were impersonal philosophers of the absolute truth. But because they heard about Lord Krishna's qualities from Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the great sage Narada, they also became Krishna's devotees. (119) Guna Krishna Hanakare Krishnera Bhajana Ekadasa Skande Tanra Bhakti Vivarana. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a full description of the devotional service of the 9 Yogendras who rendered devotional service because they were attracted by the Lord's transcendental qualities. 120. Eklesham Kamala Bhuva Pravishya Gostim Kurvanta Shruti Shurasham Shrutim Shruta Jaha Utungam Yadu Pura Sangam Maya Rangam Yogindra Pulaka Bruto Navapyava Puha. The 9 Yogendras entered Lord Brahma's association and heard from him the real meaning of the topmost Vedic literatures, the Upanishads. Although the Yogendras were already conversant in Vedic knowledge, they became very jubilant in Krishna consciousness just by listening to Brahma. Thus they wanted to enter Dwarka, the abode of Lord Krishna. In this way, they finally achieved the place known as Ranga Kshetra. Purport: this is a quote from the Maha Upanishad. 121. Moksha Kanchi Jnani Haya Tina Prakara Mumukshu Jivan Mukta Prapta Svarupa Ara. Those who wish to merge into the impersonal Brahman are also divided into 3 categories: those desiring to be liberated, those already liberated, and those who have realized Brahman. 122. Mumukshu jagate aneka samsari jana mukti lagi bhakti kare krishnera bhajana. There are many people within this material world who desire liberation, and for this purpose they render devotional service to Lord Krishna. 123. Mumukshavo Gora Rupan Hitva Bhuta Patinata Narayana Kalashanta Vajanti Hyana Suvaya. Those who want to be relieved from the material clutches give up the worship of the various demigods who have fearful bodily features. Such peaceful devotees who are not envious of the demigods worship the different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Purport: this is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.26. Those who actually want the highest perfection worship Lord Vishnu in his different incarnations. Those who are attracted to the materialistic way of life and who are always agitated and full of anxiety worship demigods who appear fierce. Demigods like goddess Kali and Kala Bhairava, Rudra. The devotees of Krishna, however, do not envy the demigods or their worshippers, but peacefully render devotional service to the incarnations of Narayana instead. 124. Sei sabera sadhu sange gunas furaya Krishna bhajana karaya Mumuksha Chadaya. If those who are attached to demigod worship fortunately associate with the devotees, their dormant devotional service and appreciation of the Lord's qualities gradually awaken. In this way, they also engage in Krishna's devotional service and give up the desire for liberation and the desire to merge into the existence of impersonal Brahman. Purport. The four Kumaras, Chatushana, Sukadev Goswami, and the 9 Yogendras were absorbed in Brahman realization. And how they became devotees is described herein. There are 3 kinds of impersonalists. The Mumukshu, those desiring liberation, the Jivan Muktas, those liberated in this life, and the Prapta Swarupas, those merged in Brahman realization. All 3 types of jnanis are called Moksha Kankshis, those desiring liberation. By associating with devotees, such people give up the Mumuksha principle and render devotional service. The real cause for this change is the association of devotees. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to attract all types of men, even those who desire things other than the Lord's devotional service. Through the association of devotees, they gradually begin to render devotional service. 125. Maho Mahatman Bahudosha Dusto Shekena Bhatesha Bhavo Gunena Satsangamakhena Sukhavahena Krithaja no Yena Krisha Mumuksha. O great learned devotee, although there are many faults in this material world, there is one good opportunity, the association with devotees. Such association brings about great happiness. Due to this good quality, our strong desire to achieve liberation by merging into the Brahman effulgence has become weakened. Purport. This is a quotation from the Hari Bhakti Suhodaya. 126. Adera Sangesona Kadi Muni Gana Mumuksha Chariya Kaila Vishnera Bhajana. By associating with the great Saint Narada, Sonaka, and the other great sages gave up the desire for liberation and engaged in Krishna's devotional service. 127. Vishnera Darshane Karo Vishnera Kripaya Mumuksha Chariya Gune Vaje Tandra Paya. Simply by meeting Krishna or receiving Krishna's special favor, one can give up the desire for liberation. Being attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna, one can engage in his service. 128. Asmin sukha gana murto param atmani vrishni pathane surati atmara mataya me vritta gato bata chiram kala. In this Dwarka Dham, I am being attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is personified spiritual bliss. Simply by seeing him, I am feeling great happiness. Oh, I have wasted so much time trying to become self-realized through impersonal cultivation. This is a cause for lamentation. This verse is found in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.1.34. 129. Jivan Mukta Aneka Seidui Bherajani Bhakti Jivan Mukta Jane Jivan Mukta Mani. There are many people who are liberated even in this lifetime. Some are liberated by discharging devotional service, and others are liberated through the philosophical speculative process. 130. Bhajye Jivan Mukta Guna Krishna Hana Krishna Bhaje Shushka Jnane Jivan Mukta Aparadhe Adho Maje. Those who are liberated by devotional service become more and more attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna. Thus they engage in his service. Those who are liberated by the speculative process eventually fall down, again due to an offensive activity. 131. Ye ye ravindaksha vimuktamaninas sayasta bhaved avishura bodhaya aruhya krachena param param tata patam charho nadrita yushmad angraya. O lotus-eyed one, those who think they are liberated in this life but are without devotional service to you are impure, are of impure intelligence, like me. Although they accept severe austerities and penances and rise to the spiritual position, to impersonal Brahman realization, they fall down again because they neglect to worship your lotus feet. Purport. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. 132. Brahmabhuta prashanatma Brahmabhuta prashanatma nasochati nakanchati sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me. This is a quote from Bhagavad Gita 18.54. 133. Advaita Viti Patikarupashaya Swananda Simhasana Labda Dikshaha Satena Kenapi Vayam Hatena Dasikrita Gopa Varuvitena. Although I was worshipped by those on the path of monism and initiated into self-realization through the yoga system, I have nonetheless been forcibly turned into a maidservant by some cunning boy who is always joking with the gopis. This is a verse written by Bilva Mangala Thakur. 134. Bhakti Bale Prapta Swarupa Divya Deha Paya Krishna Guna Krishna Hana Vaje Krishna Paya. One who has attained his constitutional position by the strength of devotional service attains a transcendental body even in this lifetime. Being attracted by Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities, he fully engages in service at his lotus feet. 135. Virodho Syanushayanam Virodho Shayanushayanam Atmana Saha Shaktibhi Mutirhitan Yatarupam Sarupena Vyavastiti. The living entities and other potencies merge into Mahavishnu as the Lord lies down and winds up the cosmic manifestation, meaning destroys the cosmic manifestation. Liberation means being situated in one's eternal original form after giving up the changeable gross and subtle bodies. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.6. 136. Krishna Bahir Mukha Doshe Maya Hoite Bhaya Krishna Mukha Baki Hoite Maya Mukta Haya. By opposing Krishna consciousness, one becomes conditioned and fearful due to the influence of Maya. By executing devotional service faithfully, one is liberated from Maya. 137. Vayam dvitiya divineshatha syad Nishadapetasya viparyayo smriti Tanmaya yato buddha abhajetam Bhaktyai guru devatatma. When the living entity is attracted by the material energy, which is separate from Krishna, he is overpowered by fear. Because he is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the material energy, his conception of life is reversed. In other words, instead of being the eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes Krishna's competitor. This is called Viparyayo Smriti. To nullify this mistake, one who is actually learned and advanced worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his spiritual master, worshipful deity, and source of life. He thus worships the Lord by the process of unalloyed devotional service. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37. 138. Dhavi hesha guna mai mama maya dhuratyaya mame vaye prabhanjante mayam etam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. This is a quote from Bhagavad Gita 7.15. 139. Bhakti vinu mukti nahi, bhakti mukti haya. One does not attain liberation without rendering devotional service. Liberation is only attained by devotional service. 140. Dhanyavad Sumangal Didi. Jai. So we're reading Madhya Lila, chapter 24, text 140. Shreya Shrutim Bhaktim Udasya Te Vivo. Shreya Shrutim Bhaktim Udasya Te Vivo. Vishantiye Kevala Bodha Labdhaye. Tesham Maso Kleshala Eva Shishyate. Nanyajata Stula Tushava Gatinam. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the only auspicious path. If one gives it up simply for speculative knowledge or the understanding that these living beings are spirit souls and the material world is false, he undergoes a great deal of trouble. He only gains troublesome and inauspicious activities. His actions are like beating a husk that is already devoid of rice. His labor becomes fruitless. Purport. This is a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.4. 141. Hey Ravindaksha Vimuktamaninas Tayastabhaved Avishuddha Bhutaya Ruhya Prichrena Param Param Tata Tantyaro Nadrita Yusmad Angraya. O lotus-eyed one, those who think they are liberated in this life but are without devotional service to you are of impure intelligence. Although they accept severe austerities and penances and rise to the spiritual position, to impersonal Brahman realization, they fall down again because they neglect to worship your lotus feet. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. (142) Yayesham Purusham Sakshad Atma Prabham Ishvaram Nabhajancha Bhajananti Stanad Drashta Patantyada. If one simply maintains an official position in the four varnas and ashrams, but does not worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he falls down from his puffed up position into a hellish condition. This is also a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.3. (142) Bhakye mukti paliha avasya krishnera bhajaya. When one is actually liberated by executing devotional service, he always engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. 144. Mukta api lilaya vigraham kritva bhagavantam bhajante. Even a liberated soul merged in the impersonal Brahman effulgence is attracted to the pastimes of Krishna. He thus installs a deity and renders the Lord service. Purport. This is a quotation from Shankaracharya's commentary on the Nrsimha Tapani Upanishad. (145) Ei chaya atma rama krishnera bhajaya pratak chakare iha apira arthakaya. These 6 kinds of Atma-ramas engage in the loving service of Krishna. The varieties of service are indicated by adding cha, and they also bear the meaning of api, indeed. Purport. There are 6 kinds of Atma-ramas. The neophyte student, the sadhaka, one who is absorbed in Brahman realization, the Brahma Maya, one who has already attained the Brahman position, the Prapta Brahmalaya, one who desires to be liberated, Mumukshu, one who is liberated even in this life, Jivan Mukta, and one who is self-realized, Prapta Swarupa. 146. Atmaramas chapikari Krishna ahutuki bhakti Munaya sanata iti Krishna manane asakti. The 6 kinds of Atma-ramas render devotional service to Krishna without ulterior motives. The words Munaya and Santa indicate those who are very much attached to meditating upon Krishna. 147. Nirgranta avidyahina keha vidhihina yahanye yukta sei artera adhina. The word nirgranta means without ignorance and devoid of rules and regulations. Whichever meaning fits may be applied. 148. Chasabde kariyare Itare tara artha, para eka artha kahe, parama samartha. The use of the word cha in different places produces different meanings. Over and above them, there is another meaning that is very important. 149. Atmaramascha atmaramascha chari bharachaya pancha atmaramachaya chakare vitahaya. Although the words atmaramas cha would be repeated 6 times, simply by adding the word cha, 5 atmaramas are deleted. 150. Eka atmarama shabde avesharahe. Eka atmarama sabde chaya janakahe. Therefore, there is no need to repeat the word atmarama. One is sufficient, and that one word indicates 6 persons. 151. Sarupanam eka sesha eka vibhakato uttartanam aprayoga ramascha rama itivat. Of words having the same form and case termination, the last one is the only one retained. For example, the word Rama is used to stand for Ramascha, etc. Purport. This is a quotation from Panini's Sutras 1.2.64. 152. Tabeye cha karasei samuchaya kaya atmaramascha monayas cha krishnera bhajaya. By the aggregate use of the word cha, it is indicated that all the atmaramas and saints serve and worship Krishna. 153. Nirgranta atra eyi api sam, nirgranta api ra eyi api sambhavane, eyi sata artha pratame karilun vyakhyane. Api, added to the word nirgranta, is used for exposition. Thus I have tried to clarify 7 meanings of the Atmarama verse. 154. Antaryami upashaka atmarama kaya sei atmarama yogira bhuvi bedahaya. The yogi who worships the supersoul within himself is also called Atmarama. There are 2 types of Atmarama yogis. 155. Sagarbha nirgarbha eyi haya bhuvi beda eka ekatina bhede chaya vibheda. The 2 types of Atmarama yogis are called the Sagarbha and Nigarbha. Each of these is divided into 3. Therefore, there are 6 types of worshippers of the Super Soul. Purport. The word Sagarbha yogi refers to a yogi who worships the Super Soul in the form of Vishnu. The Nigarbha yogi worships the Super Soul without form. The Sagarbha and Nirgarbha yogis are further categorized. 1. Sagarbha Yogarurukshu. 2. Nigarbha Yogarurukshu. 3. Sagarbha Yogarudha. 5. Nigarbha Yogarudha. 5. Sagarbha Praptasiddhi. And 6. Nigarbha Praptasiddhi. Thus ends our reading for today. All glories to Sripad Bhaktivedanta Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to Om Vishnupad Srila Bhaktivinoda Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees Ki Jai. All glories to the worldwide devotees Ki Jai. Gora Pramanandi Hari Hari.